Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So we're back with a Corki updated complete guide. Now we've done basically all of the mana like S plus S tier champions. We done like Xayah, Caitlyn, Kai'Sa, Jinx, etc. As well as the others like Stormrazor users like Jhin and Tristana. So now we're gonna move on to a little bit of the so-called less popular picks. We're gonna be covering picks like Corki, Draven. We'll see if we can do like Ashe, etc, etc, because their builds did change too, because the main thing that changed ADC's builds are two things. Firstly, the introduction of Stormrazor, and secondly, the nerf to Slurry Charge Blade. So a lot of champions like, for example, Ashe and Corki, who went for Charge Blade like second item, they can't go for that anymore because Charge Blade isn't good as an early game item anymore. So we're gonna have to take a new look at what items these ADCs actually go for. So today we're here with Corki. Now Corki obviously not in the best spot at the moment because how ADCs are very strong. AP champions in the bot lane aren't very strong, but in my opinion, regardless of how strong ADCs are, AP champions in the bot lane will always have a place, whether be it Corki, the only real AP marksman, or whether it be APCs like Ziggs, Karma, etc. So anyways, without further ado, we're gonna jump into the build. But before that, of course, as usual, refer to our original Corki complete guide to take a look at the skills as well as the leveling order, so we don't have to waste time talking about it in this video, so it can be a little bit shorter. So anyways, let's jump straight into the Corki build. Now this is sort of the Corki build that I'm using at the moment. So let's get straight into it. Now the first thing I'm going to point out is you need to have Mana Mune. Now, I know some people go straight into Essence Reaver now, but in my opinion, Mana Mune is absolutely essential, because without the Mana Mune, you use a couple of Corki spells, his mana just runs out. It's as simple as that. Corki needs Mana Mune. You really don't have a choice in the mana. Now, if you really don't want to go for Mana Mune, at least take Mana Flow Ban and then go into the crit build. But really, in my opinion, you need Mana Mune. So I'm always going to be going for Mana Mune as my first item, of course, to charge it up faster as well. We go for it first. So we will have a little bit of a weaker early game compared to someone who rushes a Essence Reaver. Now, speaking of Essence Reaver, Essence Reaver has sort of slightly come back as an item. Now, the reason that Essence Reaver has sort of slightly come back is basically because without Slurry Charge Blade, there really isn't very good options to build here for champions like, for example, Misfortune or Corki. Like it isn't really that good to go straight into IE, and you don't really go for attack speed crit items. You're not gonna build Static Shift, Stormrazor, or like Rapid Fire Cannon or Corki. You could, but it really isn't all that good because he doesn't really care so much about attack speed. Something like Essence Reaver will be better for the spell damage. So now we haven't covered Essence Reaver in a long time. So basically what Essence Reaver gives you is that 25% crit rate, 20 ability haste to cast your abilities more often, 45 AD, which not a lot of items give you just flat AD. So 45 AD, he got the 5 AD buff like a couple of patches ago, and it gives you Essence Flare, which basically means that your ability damage scales with your crit rate, so really good for champions who want to build crit and are reliant on their abilities. Basically, champions like Lucian, for example, although Lucian doesn't build it, but it sort of like Lucian is kind of the ideal example of who wants to build Essence Reaver. Now, Mana Siphon, of course, you restore 3% of your missing mana on hit. Now, that's, of course, useful for champions like Corki, who always run out of mana, and basically any spellcaster would want that. So next we go into the boots, which will be the Gluttonous Greaves, because you don't really have a ton of lifesteal in this build. And for the enchant, normally, like literally 99% of the time, you take Stasis. Now, the reason why you always want to take Stasis and not something like a Proto Belt or a Quicksilver Sash is because when you package in, you sometimes find yourselves in vulnerable positions. So sometimes you need to package into Stasis immediately, is what I found when I played Corki a lot. I am a Corki enjoyer. I like playing Corki, so I tested it a lot of times, and you basically always need the Stasis. Next, you still don't want to go into Slurry Charge Blade because you need it at least as your third or fourth crit item, so you go into the IE instead. So IE gives you even more AD, obviously increases your crit rate as well as your crit damage. And finally, then you go for your Slurry Charge Blade. So obviously Slurry Charge Blade, you get a stack whenever you cast a spell. With Corki, really simple because he spams his ultimate, really easy to get stacks, gives you more ability haste and more crit rate, and of course a little bit of attack speed is helpful as well to, of course, start proccing those Radiance stacks. And finally, we finish off with a Void Staff for the armor penetration, not armor, the magic penetration. But I will say that actually majority of the time you do go for Guardian Angel. It kind of depends on the situation. So if you need GA, you go for GA first. Now this is one of the very few instances where I didn't put GA as part of the general default build, like, you know, that you cannot go without. But something I have realized for some weird reason is that in a lot of the matches that I played, the enemy team either has no tank or the tank goes for building armor instead of MR. So a lot of the times when I get to my last item, I can actually get away with building the GA instead of building Void Staff at all. So this is actually the build I go for the most often. But in certain instances, especially if you're against like a Galio or like 1 or 2 tanks, or a lot of thunder in the background, if you're against like 1 or 2 tanks who build a lot of magic resist, then you really do need the Void Staff. So you might want to consider instead going for the Void Staff. But I think in the last slot it's kind of flexible between the Void Staff and the GA, because also Corki does mixed damage. He does 80% magic damage and 20% physical damage, roughly. So sometimes you don't really need the Void Staff all that much, because you also can rely on your mixed damage to sort of counter enemy defenses. So now we can talk about the runes and the spells. So now for the runes, you still go for Conqueror, of course, which Corki can stack up really easily with his autos, ultimate, and spells. Of course, just the best rune at the moment. Now for the second one, for like the domination, I really didn't find a very good option. I don't like Brutal because I feel it gets outskilled really quickly. Gathering Storm is not very useful on Corki because it's gonna scale with AD since you're building AD. Hunter Vampirism I found doesn't actually give all that much healing. Maybe it's because of Corki's mixed damage that it gives you physical vamp instead of magic vamp. Maybe that could be why, but I find it doesn't really heal that much. Weakness doesn't really work well on him. And Champion I did list as a option in my previous complete guide, which it is still an option now, but now I think it's a lot more risky than previously. So now I actually go for Triumph just because there isn't really a better option. For the second Resolve rune, you normally go for Hunter Titan, Adaptive Carapace, or Boneplane depending on what you need for that particular match. And for the last one, you go for Hunter Genius, of course, to get your cooldowns faster in order to actually get, cast your spells more often. You're a spellcaster, so obviously you want more cooldowns. Mana Flow Ban is an option as well, and pretty much that's it. You can go for Sweet Tooth if you really so choose, but I don't like it personally. Actually, speaking of which, probably that means that Gluttonous Greaves isn't that good because of the same logic. So maybe something like Ionian Boots would work instead. Haven't really tested it out, but I realized that Corki doesn't really get all that much lifesteal when he gets like Hunter Vampirism and all that. So that might be why, because it scales with the AD, not the AP. So anyways, for the spells, you take the Flash and the Exhaust. Exhaust generally is the best spell for ADCs now because there's so many good Exhaust targets, Assassins, Backline, Divers, etc. But you can also go for Barrier if you prefer. So with that out of the way, we can jump into the Corki gameplay. Alright, so now on to the Corki gameplay. So now, in case it wasn't obvious enough, we're playing Corki in the ADC role and not the mid lane, but Corki can be played in the mid lane as well, of course, and I actually play a lot of Corki mid, and I do like playing Corki mid as well, because, as I said, I enjoy Corki. So, anyways, regardless, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, as usual, if you enjoyed the video, if you want to support the channel, and also don't forget to comment any queries or remarks, and I will be sure to address them. So here, you guys can see that I sort of like to do this a little bit of a cheese strat in the early stages of the game, where I just sort of sit in the bush, ward the other side. Sometimes the ADC or the support will go in there alone, right to the very edge of the bush. Now, if you're not planning to do something like what I'm doing here, like me and the support both together stand at the edge of the bush to ambush them, like why would you walk straight, to the edge of the bush when you are by yourself? I just think it doesn't really make sense. Because you can easily get chunked, which is basically what we do. So instantly, we're up against a Caitlyn, which should be a very difficult matchup for something like a Corki, because she outranges me by a lot, especially before I get my ultimate. I can't really poke her. But she basically lost the lane for herself before the minion wave even crashed, by basically getting chunked to almost no health. Now, I didn't exhaust her immediately because I wasn't planning to go for a kill. I was just planning to chunk her out. Or maybe blow a flash if I was lucky, but we actually managed to chunk her out, blow her flash, and almost kill her. And I exhausted her when she basically almost reached the tower. Maybe if I exhausted her earlier, that would have been a kill, but probably she would have just flashed early, so probably not. But, who knows? who knows what would have happened if you know, if we did exhaust early. But regardless, the whole point of what I'm saying here is that don't put yourself in any unnecessary danger. Now Seraphine obviously is in that bush. We can use the phosphorus bomb to, of course, grant ourselves vision and check that she's in that bush. Now we do know she's inside, so we do land a little bit of free poke onto her as well. We dodge the double cast of Seraphine's E so we don't get rooted. Then now we're just gonna pick up the rest of the CS. Now Caitlyn obviously picked up the fruit, so she's now in relatively good shape. As you can see, she can harass us with the Seraphine really well. So this is sort of how the laning phase was supposed to go right from the get-go. But because we did get a good chunk onto Caitlyn, we did get the early game advantage for the first like minute or so. Now we're just going to just CS under the tower. Now we are very low on health and mana. Nami is also quite low on mana, so we're both going to try to attempt to recall over here. I say attempt because, as you can see, Seraphine is in that bush and uses everything just to be safe that I don't die. I pop my flash, because if Seraphine autoed me once, I would have instantly been dead. So just to be safe, I'm gonna just pop my flash. Probably that saved my life. Obviously, I'm gonna get the tier on my first back to start stacking up the tier, and we're just gonna hit back to the lane. Now, I didn't really mention this in the item build part, but generally I like to start longsword so we can at least have some AD, you know, in the early levels when we're trading. Because, you know, tier, or rather Sapphire Crystal, doesn't actually give you any useful stats. It gives you a bit of mana, but doesn't really give you any AD that is going to help you in trades. So now here we've hit level 5 and gone our ultimate, so we can now actually just use our ultimate to poke out the Caitlyn so we can trade a little bit better. Here, the Wukong is actually coming in, so Caitlyn actually sticks around. She flashes away, we get hit by Wukong and Seraphine ultimate. We're just kiting back using our Gatling gun as well as our Valkyrie to get back. Very beautiful out by the Nami, and I managed to snipe the what's her name? The Seraphine at max range, and then we kill Caitlyn, and essentially we just pick up a triple kill out of nowhere. So really well played by us. We essentially traded our jungler for a triple kill in the top lane. So really good, and all 3 kills went on me. So that is really good for my snowballing. And in the meantime, we're gonna just do some free damage to the tower, steal their fruit, take as much resources as we can. Seraphine is coming back in. As you can see, we chunk her out with the big one for our ultimate, as well as our Q following up from the bubble. So instantly she's at half health. So here the dragon is up. I'm in sort of a isolated 1v1 against Caitlyn. She's tanking the entire Gatling gun, so she does get pretty chunked out. I do go down to half health, but I do still have my own fruit, so I can pick up my own fruit to put myself at full. Caitlyn should more or less be out of the fight after that one. Now, as we know, the first Corki package actually spawns at 4 minutes, so I wasn't able to back to get the Corki package, but now I am able to back, and I do have the package ready, up and available. So now my team is sort of hanging on for my package, and the fight does start breaking out at the Dragon Pit. Here I'm going in with the package, splitting up the enemy team into 2, but the issue is that I'm kind of just stuck in the middle of the entire enemy team. I do manage to kill the Seraphine herself, but I'm pretty much stuck in between like 3 other members at the minimum, so I kind of died. They're all 1 HP because obviously those that got separated toward my side of the map did have to tank the Corki package in order to actually get the kill onto me. So they did have to tank quite a fair bit of damage there, and they're all 1 HP. Just look at this, Zinjao's going in, they're like all 1 HP. Like, just look at all those low health bars, but he can't reach them, and he's getting kited, and he runs straight into the Caitlyn trap, gets charmed, and he dies. So not really a very good look. And here I'm just checking, see if there's anybody there. I see the Kali Valkyrie over, not quite enough damage to finish her off. I get ulted by the Wukong. I'm gonna have to pop the flash and sidestep the beat drop from the Seraphine in order to escape with my life, but we do eventually actually manage to escape. In the meantime, the Cloud Dragon, the most valuable dragon in my opinion, aside from the Elder one, is still up. So whole extended fight in the end amounts to basically, I wouldn't say nothing, but it amounts to basically no objectives getting taken by either team. We're both just trading kills essentially. Here we're trying to mix things up by pushing the mid tower instead. In the meanwhile, Seraphine and Caitlyn trying to counter push in the top lane to trade, and we don't actually manage to pick up the mid lane tower, unfortunately. Here unfortunately we do lose the top lane tower, but we thankfully we already got the first tower in the bot lane. So here we're actually gonna start up the dragon. Xin Zhao is on his way, and here Caitlyn trying to set up those traps. Akali is going in. Knock up onto Akali, wave, knocks up Akali again, and here we're just trying to DPS whoever we can. I accidentally stepped right into the Caitlyn trap, but doesn't really matter too much. We do manage to finish off the fight. Xin Zhao goes off to Narnia and ends up killing the Akali, so me and Yasuo are gonna have to secure the Cloud Dragon together. So considering Wukong wasn't really around, I guess there wasn't too much threat. So here we're just gonna clear out our lane and then we can back. Now we're not really that strong yet. Obviously going for a mana immune kind of build means that we do need to actually evolve the mana immune to actually get a an item power spike. Then getting the mana immune itself doesn't really give you all that much stats or damage. But of course we are almost toward the Essence Reaver already. So when we do get the Essence Reaver, we will be pretty strong as well. So here Mundo is getting chased. Here I'm just trying to DPS and kill the Wukong. I do get the kill on the Wukong, but I'm in trouble. I hit the exhaust onto the Caitlyn so she stops DPSing us. Yasuo helps me to tank the Caitlyn ultimate. Not really necessary, but I do appreciate it. And Yasuo and Mundo are gonna back. I'm just gonna clear out the minion wave. Now you guys can see my package is up, but I don't quite want to take it just yet because there really isn't a team fight that's gonna break out. You really only want to take package when you feel a team fight is gonna break out. Generally that is gonna be before objectives. However, sometimes even when there isn't quite an objective, sometimes you do know a team fight is gonna break out. Now there's gonna be an example of that a little bit later on in the game, but in this case I don't see any team fight gonna break out anytime soon. So I don't actually take my package because I can't really use it in an incredibly effective manner. Now here Caitlyn and Seraphine are way too pushed up. I just basically destroy the Caitlyn 1v1. Of course now I do have my Essence Reaver completed already. Xin Zhao tries to go onto the Seraphine but isn't quite successful. So we're just gonna have to stop at getting the Caitlyn kill, which is already pretty good. Just helping the jungler out a little bit by doing a little bit of damage to the blue buff. And now we're just gonna rotate over to mid. Nothing much happening here, so just hanging about. Right, Xin Zhao drops the Herald in mid. That basically guarantees the tier 1 mid tower, which is of course generally the most important tower of the game to open up the map for our team. In the meantime, we're just seeing if we can get a second charge in, possibly. Of course, a lot of enemies in the area already. No second charge for us. We're just seeing who we can hit with our ultimate just for the poke. Obviously, we can poke relatively easily as a Corki like that. We poke the Wukong just a little bit. It doesn't do that much damage, but it's a little bit of damage is better than nothing. So, just gonna clear out the wave, get ourselves the mid lane push. No objectives quite coming up at the moment. Try to get an engage with the Nami ultimate, but not quite successful. Here I'm still DPSing the enemy below the tower with my ultimate. We see Wukong, so we're gonna back off so that we don't all get hit by the Wukong ultimate. That is not gonna be a very fun experience for my team. So nothing too much happening here. Now that Valkyrie was actually a misclick. Thankfully the enemy team wasn't around such that I Valkyrie straight into them or something. But here we're just gonna actually back. We're gonna pick up the Gluttonous Greaves, which I now actually realize is probably not the best boots to pick up. So now we're actually going to get ourselves the package. Now, why am I getting the package? Because as you can see, Dragon about 40 seconds from spawning. So I got my package, I got my Mirror Mana evolved. So we're really, I wouldn't say we're really strong, but we are golden at this point in time. Dragon 30 seconds away. We're just going to pick up the red buff. And it is the, everyone's favorite Infernal Dragon. So we're going to head over to the Infernal Dragon pit, and we're going to see what we can do about the situation. So of course, as usual, we always want to pick up mid lane priority before you go for an objective. This of course is so that you have a wave to push on if you do manage to get a huge teamfight win. So here the enemy team is basically all at the pit. Somebody hits the blast cone on the enemy team in the opposite direction, not blasting towards the pit, basically wasting the blast cone and making it a lot harder for the enemy team to steal. So they're gonna have to come the long way around. Yasuo with a very nice wind wall to prevent any kind of steal attempt from Seraphine. Here I package across, but I find myself high and dry, just left alone by my team, so I'm just gonna die. Not too much I can do, 1v2 against those two, but overall, we overall trade 3 for 3, and we do get the dragon. So overall, I'd say that was an alright trade. Not the best, but it didn't go too badly either. And off the back of that, my team is also going to be trying to go for the Rift Herald. Now, the enemy jungler being the Wukong is, indeed there, but my team should win the 2v2 unless they just all get one shot by Akali. So it should be fine. As you guys can see, no contest on the Rift Herald. So Xin Zhao does manage to secure the Rift Herald without too much issue. And yeah, so things are generally going pretty well at this point in time. Now, my team only has like a 1k plus goal lead against the enemy team. It's a relatively even game so far. Xin Zhao not doing the best in the world. Nami not doing the best in the world either. Mundo also not doing the best in the world. It's me and the Yasuo, you know, pretty much doing the heavy lifting in this particular match. I'm 8-2-5. Actually really fed at this point in time. Now here is where the most disastrous play of the game happens. Now here, I see Jace under the tower. I'm clearing the wave. I have a huge wave, so I do want to try to do some damage to the tower. He clears it out using his shock blast. But here you can see the Xin Zhao as well as the Yasuo and Nami all coming up. So I thought we're gonna dive the Jace. So I start off the dive. Instead, I just die 1v1, and my whole team instead just goes for the rest of the enemy team, being the Akali and the Caitlyn, when basically the Jace was a free kill. Now, obviously, I was at fault there. I was at huge fault there for going in, you know, without my team actually being there, because I thought that they would reach it up, and they would. That was not exactly a wrong assumption, but my whole team instead just decided to go for the wrong play instead of getting the free kill on the Jace. Now here, as you guys can see, they eventually do get the kill on the Jace, but there a 4-man dive essentially means it's a completely free kill on the Jace, and we can all get out scot-free because the two of them can't reach the 4 of us in time. But either way, you know, we die basically needlessly, but you know, it is what it is, and we're just gonna have to move on from that situation. So here we got the Zanya's Hourglass completed, as well as building the BF Sword and the Cloak. So we are doing really well in terms of our build. We're gonna pick up the red buff yet again. Obviously, it's going to be a lot more useful on a fed Corki than a feeding Xin Zhao. So we're just going to pick up, you know, pick that up, and we're just going to take any farm we can find, that being the jungle monsters. As you can see, our basic attacks do about 500 damage total, about 400 worth of magic damage, and about 100 worth of physical damage. So as I said, generally it's 80 to 20% ratio. So that is about there. So here we're going to pick up the package, and now here is the example I was alluding to earlier. There's no real fight happening at an objective, but you can see that a fight is just going to break out, and as I'm on the way with the package, a fight indeed does break out. Now look at this package. Boom, we split up the enemy team. I dive the backline of the enemy team. Boom, there goes the Caitlyn, and boom, there goes the Jace. In the meantime, the front line of the team getting destroyed by my team, so I get a triple kill eventually. So that package was huge, splitting up the enemy team, splitting up the fight, and basically making it such that I can attack the backline without the front line being there, and my team can destroy the front line without the backline to do any DPS. So really beautiful package there, wins us the fight, and didn't even need to use stasis. So here we're just going to get the inhibitor. Inhibitor is guaranteed. Now, I honestly knew we couldn't end here, but my team wanted to try, so I'm just gonna go over there, just attack a little bit. We realized it's very obvious that there's no way we can end there. We managed to blow the Seraphine out for no good reason, and we're just gonna back away. Mountain Dragon is of course coming up in basically now, but here I'm just gonna steal the enemy blue buff. You know, as we always say, you know, when you make a play, you always want to rob the enemy of any resources that you can. In this case, that entails taking their jungle camp. So we finish off the IE. 3 items now, really strong, and we're basically almost to the Slurry Charge Blade already. Got both components already, so less than 900 gold required to finish off the Slurry Charge Blade. So here, Mountain Dragon is basically a formality. Not too much any team can do to contest it. They do give it a good try though. Here, Akali's trying to dive me in the backline. I'm just trying to do what I can against her. She doesn't actually manage to do any damage against me in the end. Here, I'm diving in very aggressively to just DPS the Seraphine. Seraphine finds herself at 1 HP. And here, the Xin Zhao does help me to tank the Caitlyn ultimate. He picks up a triple, and we can basically we can actually just go for the end of the game. We don't even need to pick up the dragon. So as you guys can see, we're just going to go for the end of the game. Xin Zhao does get shut down by Caitlyn eventually, so no quadra kill for the Xin Zhao. We're just going to run straight down to the mid lane to end the game. We don't need any mountain dragon. Like, what use is that when we can just end the game? Caitlyn, you know, doesn't realize how much damage I do, so I instantly just pop her, and basically it's just a guaranteed win at this point in time. Alright, so as usual, I'm going to be leaving you guys with the stats. So, thank you guys so much for watching the video. I'll see you guys in the next one, and goodbye.